Hey guys, what's up? Alex here. Welcome back to another video, and today's video is going to be the start of a small series on this channel, one in which we look at all of the rumours in Formula 1 over the week and just sort of round them up and put them into a little video and give my opinions on them if I feel that that is needed. Now, over the next hopefully months, I'm going to be continuing on my videos, but I'm going to be dedicating more time to scripting them and making sure that all of the exact words that I want to put out are right there, instead of maybe repeating stuff, which I know has been an issue of mine in the past. So I've been focusing on scripting my videos for, the upcoming week and obviously the future. But these videos I want to be a bit more raw, a bit less unscripted. So I've got notes down here, but I haven't got a full list of exactly what I want to say. So hopefully the fact that this is unscripted will make this a little bit more authentic in a way. So we've got a lot of stuff to speak about in today's video. The big one, which we're going to get onto later, is the rumours that Sebastian Vettel was about to quit Formula 1 and Ferrari. But we'll get onto that a little bit later. So the first of which on my list is Hamilton. So he recently went on an American talk show, Letterman. I'm not too familiar with it myself, but he went over there and spoke about Formula 1 and spoke about what his thoughts are for the future. So this was actually recorded quite a long time ago. It was recorded back in February, but nonetheless, it's still interesting to know what he, is going through his mind right now. So basically, Lewis Hamilton, whilst on the talk show, said that even though his contract finishes in 2020, he's very sure that he's got at least 5 more years in him. So that's not exactly what a lot of other fans of the sport wanted to hear, especially if he stays with Mercedes, the dominant team right now. He says that Michael Schumacher retired at 38 whilst he's 33, and in his head he could definitely do 5 more years. And Hamilton's, I don't know, I feel like he's the sort of guy, I feel like of course he's got a lot of other stuff outside Formula 1 that is of his interest, but at the same time, when he gets to a Formula 1 weekend, he's very dedicated to the goal. He knows what he wants to, come out of the weekend, and a lot of the time he scores the goods. So I think that's very interesting to hear. Lewis Hamilton, another 5 years in Formula 1. What do you guys think? That was recorded at the start of the season. What do you think if he goes on to dominate this championship? Is that even more motivation to go and chase the 7th and match, and if not beat, Michael over the coming years? I'm not too sure. What do you guys think? Is Lewis Hamilton the greatest of all time? Is he going to be someone to beat Michael Schumacher's records? I mean, I think the race win record probably will be beaten at some point. Whether the championships record will be beaten, that is a little bit harder. But let me know your thoughts and opinions on that one in the comment section down below. But it's interesting to note that Lewis Hamilton does predict he's got at least 5 more years in Formula 1. So a very interesting article that came about over the last week or so was that Renault was considering building a qualifying car for 2020. Now, that might seem weird. You might be like, why on earth would they do that? They're progressively getting better. I mean, I know their reliability hasn't been great this year, but they're a pretty quick car when they get their act together. But the managing director, Cyril Abiteboul, they said that definitely weighing up the option where they should be concentrating a car that is better in qualifying rather than a car that's good over a race distance, because he says you look at the modern day Formula 1 and you look at where the races are won, and the races are won typically on the first couple of laps of the race. Yes, the midfield is slightly different, but if you look at the front of the grid, the Red Bulls, the Mercedes, the Ferraris, typically the person that gets down to the first corner first has the best percentage chance of winning. Okay, it doesn't always happen. There are overtakes sometimes for the leader race through pit stops and all that, but if Renault want to make progress before the rule changes, that could be the most likely way they could do it. Build a car that's fantastic in qualifying, it's got the 1 lap pace, and then when they get to the race, they're all just about defending. Now, I personally don't think that's the way to go about it. I kind of disagree with this idea, and I personally feel they should just make the best car, all-round car possible, because I don't want Renault Formula 1 fans being ecstatic on the Saturday, and then when they get to the Sunday, they're just nervous throughout the whole race because they're trying to defend. And I think Renault have to be realistic. They're probably not going to be ahead of anyone else before the rule changes. I can't see them being ahead of Red Bull, Mercedes or Ferrari. They're going to be the 4th best team at best before rule changes. So maybe they should just continue the development they're on right now, because, okay, they've had a bit of a rocky start to this 2019 season, but in general, I think their car is getting better. They've just got to sort out that engine, which has been the problem. It's been where all the gremlins have been at the start of this season. But You know, Beatable says, you know, the first is aero efficiency, the second is how you balance qualifying and the race, because in modern F1 it's all about qualifying. All tracks are almost like Monaco now, and a different pattern of development car if you focus on qualifying or you focus on the race. I don't know, I just really don't think that's the way forward for Renault. You know, they're a massive Formula 1 team, and to be trying a bit of a will it work, won't it work risk for the 2020 car does seem like a bit silly to me, to be perfectly honest. I feel like Renault have got the capability, they've got the brains, and they've got the staff and the infrastructure behind them to create a fantastic car. Okay, it probably won't beat those big three teams next season, but you know, it could get a podium or two if they play their cards right. They could definitely get closer, and if they really concentrate on doing a qualifying car, I'm not sure whether the same results will come their way, because you know, stuff like the undercut or the overcut in pit stops will completely destroy them unless their cars are, I don't know, what, 7th and 8th, and then they pit them. I don't know, I just can't see it working. But let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section, because is this Renault's best chance to score a podium by doing something like this? I mean, it could work at some place like Monaco, but then you go to somewhere, I don't know, maybe like Canada, where we're going this weekend, and you get blown past on the straights if you try and do a qualifying car, because obviously qualifying is typically about the downforce, whereas in the race you want that aero efficiency and I don't know, a better car in a straight line so you can do the overtakes. But let me know your thoughts and comments on that one in the section down below. So an interesting piece of news that really caught my attention this week was that Porsche actually built an engine for the 2021 regulations, which is very, very exciting, because that shows me that there was all the intentions that Porsche were looking to make a Formula 1 entry, and you know, progress into this sport. But it's obviously not happened. They've not confirmed anything. I mean, there might still be a tiny little glimpse of chance that something might happen, but a quote from Porsche said that in 2017 there were signals from Formula 1 that the regulations were to be changed, and that the energy recovery system and the exhaust gases, the MGUH, was no longer required, he said. As of 2017, Porsche was a member of the FIA Manufacturers Commission and was involved in discussions and the future drive strategy in Formula 1 from 2021 and representing at the meetings. On the one hand, we took part in those working meetings. On the other hand, the guys developed a 6-cylinder for the parallel in the World Endurance Championship. Enzinger said that the 6-cylinder engine is complete and running at the test bench, as a team of 20 to 25 technicians use it for analysis and further orders to regard the system relevance. The possible use for this 6-cylinder engine was completely open, he said. And interestingly, he said that if it had been decided to send Porsche 2021 to Formula 1, we would have made it in the way we did it in 2018. So, I don't know, maybe a little bit lost in translation there. It doesn't quite read off the tongue that easily. But nonetheless, it showed some dedication to the cause. They wanted to build this F1 2021 engine where they thought these certain regulations were going to be in place. I don't know whether really going forward Porsche will consider Formula 1. Its relevance to relevance to road cars doesn't seem to be quite as much as other Formula E right now. We use an example like the World Endurance Championship. They're going to more supercars, sort of super hypercars over the next couple of years, where a little bit more road relevance. And then you've got somewhere like Formula E where they run on road tyres, and they use a lot of that technology that they produce in Formula E for their road cars. Right now, Formula 1 is still innovating, having some fantastic design, but right now it's the pinnacle of motorsport rather than being the most relevant to what we're seeing in our road cars. So that's very interesting. I think Porsche as a company definitely wants to create something they're going to actually use. They don't seem to want to build something and then just never use it. So, I mean, obviously they're trying stuff behind the scenes like we've been seeing here, but they're not going to dedicate themselves to a Formula 1 team if they're going to spend millions and billions and billions and then not actually really use any of the technology they've learned. So they seem to be the sort of company that really strives on the future, and right now I don't think that Formula 1 is producing quite the sort of technology we're going to be using in the future of our road cars. So hence the reason why I can't see Porsche coming to Formula 1 soon. Maybe things will change in the future. Maybe when Formula 1 probably inevitably does go electric, we might see Porsche in the series. But right now, I can't see Porsche in the short term being involved with the sport. But it's very interesting to see. They were testing some ideas in case the big bosses at Porsche decided that Formula 1 was an option for the Porsche group. So, over the last week, this has probably been the biggest news which people have been speaking about. An article from Spanish press came out saying that Sebastian Vettel was going to quit Ferrari. He was done with Formula 1. He just was bored of not winning stuff and championships. And, well, they said that a certain somebody was going to come in and replace him. And then you've got to remind yourself, this is a Spanish newspaper or organisation, and then they come in and say that Fernando Alonso is going to be replacing Sebastian Vettel at Ferrari. Well, I don't think any of us would. Well, I mean, obviously Sebastian Vettel fans wouldn't like it, but I think from the casual viewer, seeing Fernando Alonso back in Formula 1 would be interesting. The inside politics and all that sort of stuff, would that make or break Leclerc? I don't know, but nonetheless, we're getting off track. I think it's, in my mind at least, pretty apparent that this was a bit of a false story, trying and get in Sebastian Vettel's head. I mean, we know that Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso never particularly got on, so who knows, maybe there was some stuff behind the scenes that was maybe just, I don't know, maybe it was a joke or something like that, and maybe it got out of hand and then it got leaked to the press as a serious story. Who knows, but yeah, I think we've got to take this with a massive pinch of salt, because I personally don't see this as true whatsoever. It'd be interesting if it did happen, but I just really can't see it happening. So, according to a journalist, Joe Stewart, Vettel could walk away from the sport at the end of the 2020 season. Sorry, at the end of this year, even though being contracted to the end of the 2020 season. But Vettel was asked about this from a German car magazine, Auto Bild, and basically asked him straight up what was going on with this. Was he really going to be quitting Formula 1? I mean, obviously, there's only one thing that Sebastian Vettel can say, but you can tell it sometimes when people are honest, and I always see Vettel as a very honest person, and he says, I'm not about to stop. Formula 1 is still lots of fun for me, and I'm still having something to do at Ferrari. I think he still sees the end goal at Ferrari. He knows what he wants to do with them. It's not really quite gone the same way as his idol Michael Schumacher going into Ferrari, building up the team around him, winning championships. It's not really worked that way, because back then Ferrari were a team much closer to the front of the grid when Michael Schumacher joined, if I remember correctly. Maybe they weren't. But nonetheless, Michael Schumacher managed to develop the team around him and produce winning cars almost straight away, and Schumacher and the whole team around him went on to win a lot of championships. Of course, Sebastian Vettel was looking to try and replicate that. I mean, if we're saying that Lewis Hamilton has got 5 more years, I mean, if we're saying that, drivers can go to 38, we look at Sebastian Vettel, he's younger than Lewis Hamilton, he's 31, so he could have 7 more years in Formula 1. I don't know, I feel like just looking at it from outside and someone that doesn't know either Sebastian Vettel or Lewis Hamilton, you would see that Sebastian Vettel is the more sort of Formula 1 fan, but weirdly in a lot of ways, when Hamilton does get into his race car, he's a next level. I mean, he just dedicates himself to it. I mean, he might not know as much about the sport as Sebastian Vettel. He might not even care as much about the history of the sport as Sebastian Vettel, but once he gets into the car, even as someone that isn't, is just neutral in the community and doesn't particularly support anyone except from Danny Kvyat, it's just interesting to see how Hamilton just manages to turn it on basically every single time he gets into a Formula 1 car, and just does bits basically, as we would say. So nonetheless, we've got a bit off topic here, but let's speak about these and just finish off this little story. I can't see it happening. I can't see Vettel leaving Ferrari. I mean, especially after what happened with Ricciardo at Red Bull, where Ricciardo joined, did a fantastic job, beat Sebastian Vettel, and then Vettel leaves. I don't think Vettel wants the reputation of, he just quits every time he gets put up against a challenge. So yeah, I think we just have to accept this was a bit of a false rumour, just maybe trying to create a little bit of drama within the Formula 1 paddock. But let's be honest, unless something really crazy happens towards the end of this year, I can't see Sebastian Vettel walking away from the sport. So Now the big boss, or not the biggest boss, but one of the bigger bosses at McLaren right now, Seidel, who came from the Porsche World Endurance team, says he wants 2021 Formula 1 rules clarity to sort of start shaping the McLaren cars. So, of course, we still haven't got definite idea about what's happening with this rule package, so that's leaving a lot of teams a little bit in the dark about what they should be doing and developing. Of course, you know, Seidel, apologies for butchering the name, coming into McLaren, doing a pretty good job, to be fair to him. He's come in and immediately the team's got better. I mean, I know a lot of their results have been a bit lucky, but nonetheless they're better, much better than they were last year as a team, so that's very exciting. Very, very exciting for them. Maybe McLaren can start to be a big team once again. Nonetheless, this rules clarity needs to be brought to Formula 1. I think a lot of the teams just need to know what's going on. So, you know, they've got the finances in place. If this is going to cost more or less, they know how much they could be dedicating to certain areas within the teams. So, very exciting if these regulations get sort of brought to us sooner rather than later. I think the longer they're left, the more Formula 1 teams are going to panic somewhat, maybe start preempting decisions, and that might not be good for the sport, because if someone preempts a decision and it's very right, then we might have a situation like 2009 where Brawn are dominating. I mean, whilst that was an interesting story in its own right, we don't want to see one or two teams running away with it once again. We want to see a closer development battle, and we don't want to see Mercedes, all due respect to them, we don't want to see them dominating for another 5 or 6 years. So let's keep our fingers crossed that the clarity within these rules is brought to the teams sooner rather than later. So exciting times, as Daniel Ricciardo is saying that Renault actually has data to prove that their breakthrough claim that Renault is going to come through and do something fantastic over the next couple of months. Apparently they've got the data behind them to actually prove that. So whilst I personally can't see, as I've spoken about already in this video, I personally can't see Renault coming in to be a top 3 team even next year, let alone by the end of this season. But if something miraculous happens within that team, they develop the right parts, maybe they could still get a podium towards the end of this year. Yes, a lot of things would need to go their way, but still, I see Renault as the 4th best team, even though they've had a bit of a rocky start to the season, which we've already mentioned in this video, so I apologise. I just can't see where they're going to find a second per lap out of nowhere. You know, basically they've got to find a second whilst every other team is standing still. So you're going to be looking at the other teams developing still, and Renault have got to outdevelop them by sort of 2 or 3 times to catch them up and then go quicker than them. So whilst they must have an understanding of where their car is flawed right now, let's be perfectly honest, let's be realistic. Renault isn't going to get a legitimate podium by the end of this season, and they're probably not going to get a legitimate podium by the end of next season as well. They're more or less waiting for the rules package. So I don't know, there's sort of 2 contrary articles in this piece really. From one side, Renault are saying they've got a really good car here and, you know, they're on the right tracks. And then on the other side, we've got Cyril Abiteboul saying we need to develop, we're considering a qualifying car because maybe we're not quick enough. So which one is it, guys? I mean, I'm hoping it's the first, because obviously we want to see Renault being up at the front again, like we want to see McLaren up, and, you know, if we can see sort of 5 teams throughout a season winning races, bring back some of the good old days of 2012 when it was just manic. That'd be fantastic. But still, what do you guys think? Do you think Renault are realistically going to, you know, make a massive breakthrough this year? With all due respect, I can't see it really happening. I can't see them drastically going up the pecking order. But you keep your fingers crossed for them, because we all know the hard-working people over at Enstone have got a lot of passion for Formula 1, and it's been a shame over the last couple of years that it's not really worked out for them. But, you know, keep those fingers crossed, lads, because it could happen. It could happen too. Wow, I've realised this video has nearly gone on for 20 minutes now, so a massive thanks to you guys for sticking around. But even on a fairly quiet week for Formula 1 rumours, a lot of stuff has come out. So I'm going to end on a tasty one, which sort of brings us back to talking about Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari. He says that, well, the team says that Ferrari expects no significant improvement anytime soon. They go on to say, I think we'll be in better shape compared to Barcelona here at Montreal. But I think they, Mercedes, have still got the best car and the strongest car at the moment. I think they will be the ones that we should be ahead, but maybe the gap will be closer. If there's any opportunity, we'll be ready to take it. Interesting, I mean, especially that last bit. They haven't exactly had the best strategy this year. I mean, they've rather left some of their drivers left for dead in terms of their tyres and their just strategy at points this year. So whether they're realistically going to be on hand to capitalise from any errors, sceptical. But at the same time, I think we all want to see just something different happen. I mean, let's be perfectly honest, going into this Canadian Grand Prix weekend, the team that should do well is Mercedes, and if they don't do well, something crazy has happened in the last couple of weeks, because they have the best car at the moment. This track suits their car to a T, and they should dominate, really. I mean, I know a lot of people have said that Ferrari have got the engine horsepower advantage, but I think that's completely offset by the lack of speed through the corners for the Ferrari car right now in comparison to the Mercedes. At least the Mercedes seems to be committed 98% of the time around the whole track, where it's the Ferrari is quick in a straight line, but then it gets to a few of the specific types of corners and it's just, whoa, what am I supposed to do here? It's floundering around a little bit and they're losing a lot of time there. So okay, very interesting to hear that. I think that's quite truthful from the Ferrari team. I mean, you hear this every week now, or week, I don't know what we're trying to say here. Every fortnight or whatever, when a Formula 1 race weekend's on, you hear the Ferrari, yeah, we're probably not going to match the Mercedes, and then you hear Toto Wolff and Mercedes say, yeah, but I think Ferrari are going to be strong this weekend, we better watch out. It's like just bluffing, because they know they've got such a big advantage. I don't know, as a Formula 1 fan, we all want to see, or as a neutral Formula 1 fan I should say, I want to just see a close battle for the championship and some really exciting races. I realise that not every single Grand Prix is going to be a 10 out of 10. I realise that the majority of races probably aren't even going to be 7 out of 10s. But as long as we get 6 or 7 races through a season where you're sort of on the edge of your seat, you don't know what's going to happen, that's exciting. But right now in Formula 1, it's not quite working out that way, and that's a shame for a lot of the fans. So, nonetheless, I think I've spoken long enough. Thank you guys for watching, I really appreciate it. I do apologise for having a cold, you could probably have noticed it throughout this video. Deeper voice, so maybe we should keep it. But nonetheless, yeah, thank you again for watching. Tomorrow my documentary is coming out on YouTube. This is the shorter version we had to create for university, and in a couple of months time we're going to create an extended version which is going to be about an hour long. So I'm very excited to release that one to you in a few months time, I should say. But tomorrow is the one that we've spent a lot of time on. The last 6 months has been dedicated to this project, so I'd appreciate your support on it. And I released the teaser over on Twitter yesterday with a lot of great reception, so massive thanks to everyone that supported me on that. But yeah, I've rambled on long enough. Guys, have a fantastic day, and thanks for supporting me as always. It's been Axe, and I'm out of here. Goodbye.